All right, so we ended talking about the Great Sphinx. And again, this looks like it's a lion's body and a human's head. And it's not in great shape. You can kind of see the nose is missing and so forth, but it's right outside of the Great Pyramid. And again, this is supposed to come alive, has the face of Khufu's son, Khafre, and protect King Khufu from anybody going into the pyramids. Now, of course, that did not happen, but that's the purpose. All right, moving on to the Middle Kingdom. After the Old Kingdom collapsed, there were there's a period of unstable time, about 150 years, and so eventually a new dynasty maintained control. And the Middle Kingdom is also known as the Golden Age. So you can see it went from 2050 BC to 1652 BC. So what happens in a Golden Age? Things are peaceful, they're adding more land, life is pretty good. So they expanded the Egyptian kingdom into Nubia. They established territories in Palestine and Syria, but they were short-lived in the Egyptian kingdom. They were eventually, taken out because they kind of revolted against that. And then they traded with Kush, Syria, Mesopotamia, and Crete, which was all the way over in Greece. The pharaoh seemed to have a little bit better connection with the people. And so that was a good thing. So he knew we needed more farmland, so he drained swamps for farmland, built this canal which connected the Nile to the Red Sea, so that made trading and transportation easier. So again, Old Kingdom, Middle Kingdom, and New Kingdom, you can kind of see that, those were the time periods in there. And so therefore you can kind of see the territories that they controlled. And of course the Nile River was significant. All right. So at this point, around 1652, the Egyptians were invaded by the Hyksos, and they were just people that were from the Western Asia region, and they had these horse-drawn chariots, and they were skilled at warfare because they had these horse-drawn chariots, which were much better than these carts that were being pulled around by donkeys in Egypt. They ruled Egyptians for about 100 years, and then Egyptians got this use of bronze and horse-drawn chariots from this group of people that ruled them for about 100 years. All right, so at that point, they finally got rid of these people from Western Asia and became one of the most powerful empires in Southwest Asia and Northern Africa. They had a lot of money because, of course, there was lots of gold in Africa. They built new temples, and most of those temples had to do with, the pharaohs. So the first great temple near Thebes was built for the first woman pharaoh, Hatshepsut. And you can see off to the left there that even though she was a woman, her statue would be portrayed like she had a beard. That was a very typical design that they would put for statues and on the masks for the coffins. So again, and it was always addressed as His Majesty, even though it was a her. And so she, again, married her half-brother, and then her nephew, Thutmose III, because her half-brother was Thutmose II, became the next leader, and again, added more territory into, he had 17 military campaigns into Syria and Palestine, and even reached all the way over to the Euphrates River. Amenhotep the Fourth, again, when he ruled, he decided that we wanted to worship one God. That was Aton, which was the god of the sun disk. Again, sun was very important. And so then he changed his name to Akhenaten, which meant all is well with Aton. He destroyed all temples that were constructed for other gods because he wanted this one God worship, yet he wanted people to worship him as well as a god. And so it didn't really work so well. All right, King Tut. He was, of course, this boy king that the picture on the left you can see is a computerized generated from a computer based on the skull that they found. But his sarcophagus is probably the most famous one. Of course, it was made out of gold. It is on the cover of our textbook, and he ruled until he was 18 years old. Again, he didn't rule for very long, but because of all of the money that he controlled and because of his youth, he was more well known. He restored the old gods that the previous Amenhotep decided to get rid of. And so those are the things that King Tut did. All right, Ramses II. He is the picture on the right. And again, he ruled from 279 to 213 BC. He regained some of the territory that they had lost earlier, but not all of it. This new kingdom collapsed after the Sea People, or Phoenicians, kind of drove them back to their own original borders. So he got some territory, and then he ended up losing this. And again, Ramses he was almost 90 years old. So that is just showing how good that they have preserved the bodies. I think he was also a pharaoh that had something like 70 some children. So of course he had several wives to do that. All right. So the next 1,000 years, Egypt dominated by different groups of people. Libyans, which were from Africa, Nubians, also from Africa, Persians and Macedonians from Europe and Asia. And then eventually, in the 1st century BC, Queen Cleopatra VII, we talked about, or we will talk about when we talk about Rome in in World Studies B. But this became established again, this power by Cleopatra. She became a pretty powerful one, and then she wanted more power because she wanted to control all the territory that the Romans controlled, but did not happen. All right, society at the top. It was a very simple structure. The god and the king kind of were coinciding, right? So the king or the pharaoh was at the top. That's why he had a pyramid constructed. And then the upper class, which were made out of the nobles and the priests, who were kind of right after the king or the pharaoh, they, of course, ran the government, managed their own personal land. The next class were merchants, artisans, scribes, and tax collectors. Most of them lived in the major cities, and of course they were involved in international trade along the Nile. And as artisans, they made these stone dishes, they had painted box, wooden furniture, gold, of course, silver, those were in abundance in Africa, copper, especially copper tools and containers, paper made from papyrus, and also rope made from papyrus, which was a reed growing along the Nile River, and linen clothes, which they wore linen for most of their clothes, and they would trade that. And then the next class were the peasants, which were really the farmers, and that was where the majority of the ancient Egyptian civilization lived. Most of them were lower class farmers that worked the land. All right, daily life. Boys would typically get married at 14, girls at 12. That sounds early, but remember their average life expectancy was about 30. So the fact that Ramses lived to be almost 90, it tells you he was a cushy life as a pharaoh. They were monogamous, in other words, one partner at a time, but men could have more than one wife if the first wife did not produce children, and of course that they could afford it. So that's why the pharaohs could do it. Husbands were, of course, dominant, but women were well respected in Egypt. Women could own property and have inheritances. They could also run their own business. They had arranged marriage by their parents. And of course, having children was the main purpose or priority of a marriage. That was the point. It wasn't love. It wasn't anything else. And divorce was possible. It just didn't happen very often because a man could then just take on a second wife. All right, writing and education. Of course, ancient hieroglyphics is probably some of Egyptian history's most famous things. And the word hieroglyphics means priest carvings or sacred writings. And it was started at about 3000 BC. It was using pictures and other abstract forms of drawings or picture symbols. It was written on temple walls and in tombs. Not everybody, of course, could write hieroglyphics, so that was the point of a scribe. Hieratic script was this simplified version of hieroglyphics, and it used dashed lines and stokes and curves, and it was used for like trading and transactions and record keeping about how much grain they had, and just keeping track of moon, stars, general needs of Egyptian life. It was written on stone, like I said, temple walls, but later it was written on papyrus, rolls of paper made from the papyrus reeds that grew along the Nile River. They also then used a reed to dip in ink to write on that papyrus roll, as you can see down below. Scribes were Egyptian young boys that of upper class that went to school to learn how to write. The girls didn't get this privilege because they stayed at home and learned how to be a good wife. And learning to become a scribe or learning hieroglyphics took many years, but when they were done, they had a well respected job. All right, achievements in art and science. Architecture, of course, things like their pyramids, temples, other monuments, things still exist today. So that's why pyramids are in orange, because you can go visit them today. Art and sculpture, they learned how to draw the human body in 3 different ways: the profile, the semi-profile, and then frontal views. So that, of course, tells you that they knew the body quite well. In math, which of course I mentioned geometry was used to construct in the pyramids, they also came up with formulas for area and volume. Now again, they didn't come up with everything in geometry, but they used and came up with some things in geometry. Astronomy, they were first to come up with a 365-day calendar, which was based on the moon, which is what, of course, we use today. In medicine, the process of embalming or preserving a dead body, again, this process was something we use today. Of course, we don't do the whole process that the Egyptians do, but we do remove organs. We do, use embalming fluid, and then, of course, bury them in a coffin. They also invented things like splints and bandages because they understood the human anatomy so well that they actually treated for things like broken bones, diseases, and other issues. All right, the last thing in your notes is this compare and contrast. Mesopotamia was section 1, Egypt is section 2. So, of course, Mesopotamia was in Southwest Asia and had the Fertile Crescent along the Tigris and Euphrates River. Egypt is in Africa, of course, along the Nile River. Mesopotamia was a lot of flat plains and deserts. Egypt was deserts, seas, and then the rapids of the Nile or cataracts. Those were the barriers. Religion were both polytheistic, and again, different gods, different names. So they didn't have the same religion, but multiple gods. The government, Mesopotamia, they had city-states. They had a theocracy, kind of dealt with intermixing religion and government, large bureaucracy with officials, and then the kings ruled. In Egypt, they had rural villages, family dynasties, and of course, divine kings ruled, and that just meant that the kings were approved by the gods. Social structure at the top of Mesopotamia, you had the nobles, then the commoners, and then the slaves. In Egypt, you have upper classes, you had the merchants, artisans, and then at the bottom, peasants. Both, of course, had good farming and trading because of the rivers. And then the written language for Mesopotamia was cuneiform, that wedge-shaped writing. And in Egypt, of course, it was the hieroglyphic or picture type writing.